often seen in the world of sports when there's an athlete who severely sprains his ankle and he can barely walk, but continues to play through the pain because he really wants to win. He doesn't want to let his teammates down. And with that courage, he leads his team to an improbable victory. Now, on the other hand, there are football players who get hit extremely hard in the head to the point where they can't see straight, but they can continue to play. Not to be courageous, but because they are too prideful. There are many football players that play with concussions because they don't want to sit out. And when that happens, it creates more damage to the brain. A concussion is a traumatic brain injury that alters the way your brain functions. If multiple concussions occur in a person, the long-term effects can be very dangerous. Now, reported by CBSSports.com 2013, it has been about a year since the death of Junior Seau. Junior Seau is a former NFL player who committed suicide by shooting himself in the chest. Later on, the autopsy revealed that he had been suffering from a condition called CTE, which is a brain disease caused by multiple concussions and other hard blows to the head. Since the death of Junior Seau, many NFL players are seeing the seriousness of a concussion. So today I will be discussing when concussions began to be a major issue in football, the physiology and symptoms of a concussion, and methods and precautions to hopefully reduce the number of concussions in football. Now, for a very long time, concussions were overlooked in football because it wasn't considered a season-ending injury. But make no mistakes about it, concussions are very serious and have ended the careers of many players and have made life after football difficult for these players as well. Which leads me to Mike Webster. Mike Webster will be known as the Father of Concussions. Now, according to WorldPress.com 2013, he is known as the Father of Concussions because in 1999 he became one of the first NFL players to successfully win a disability lawsuit against the NFL from suffering chronic brain damage as a professional athlete. He would later pass away in 2002 and would also be diagnosed with CTE, the same exact condition as Junior Seau 10 years later. Now, after the death of Mike Webster, the issue of concussions began very known in the NFL and in the sports media. And many players right now, current or retired, suffer from health issues due to concussions. One of those players being Ted Johnson. Reported by ESPN.com 2012, former NFL player Ted Johnson retired back in 2005 after a career filled with concussions and walked away from the game because of fear of the next big hit. He also retired in 2005 because he was suffering from severe headaches and depression. And there has been many cases like Johnson throughout the years. So that leads us to present day. Reported by PBS.org 2013, this past NFL season was filled with concussions. There was 160 head-related injuries. And I'm sure that guy in the picture was one of those 160 people. Now that leads us to the physiology and the symptoms of a concussion. Now, what is a concussion? According to MHSA.org 2013, a hard blow to the head can transmit enough force that causes the brain to literally bounce around and twist within the skull. So if you were to think about this, just think of one of those little toy rattles. You know, one of these things right here. When you shake it real hard or throw it against the wall, the little ball bounces inside real radically. So think of that little ball as your brain in regards to a concussion. All right, so bear with me, this was the best metaphor I could think of. So back to the physiology. Cell and cell membranes are stretched and torn. This damage leads to an abnormal movement of calcium, potassium, and other substances in and out of the injured cells. This means blood is not the only source of glucose for the brain. This is a problem because the injured cells now have a limited supply of glucose. So in this example, think of glucose as fuel. So with all the other substances being out of whack, glucose is the only fuel for the brain, and it's the only fuel for a damaged cell over here, or maybe another damaged cell on this side. So glucose is working real hard to keep everything at bay, and studies show that it will take at least 2 weeks for all these cells to heal up. So if you decide to play with all that craziness happening in your head, it is not good for your health. It will just lead to more problems in the future. Alright, so some of the symptoms of a concussion reported by SportsMD.com 2012. Symptoms are headaches, dizziness, nausea, vomiting, confusion, and many, many more. You see the guy in the picture, he's suffering through some dizziness right now. I love what the caption says, when in doubt, sit out. Alright, so that leads us to methods and precautions to hopefully reduce the number of concussions in football. For the vast cases of concussions, football at all levels, meaning college, high school, professional, are making a valiant effort to reduce concussions or reduce further injury after having a concussion. One of those methods has been rule changes. You are not allowed to have helmet-to-helmet hits. That means you can't use your helmet as a weapon. If you do that, you will get fined or get suspended from the game, or even many other games afterwards. Another good precaution is to have an action plan. According to CDC.gov 2013, an action plan is a great way to ensure that concussions are identified and managed correctly. A lot of training staffs do this now in high school, college, professional. It's a good way to detect a concussion and keep players from playing. So today I went over the history of football in regards to when it became a problem in professional football. We also talked about the physiology and symptoms of a concussion. And lastly, we talked about possible methods and precautions to reduce the number of concussions. Now, I want to end on this note. I think football is an amazing sport, but it does have the dangers, obviously. But I am fortunate to say that I have never been concussed. And I hope with more studies and more awareness and more research, that future players will also not go through many concussions or none at all. All right, thanks for listening. You guys are very classy.